Setting up OpenClaw looks complicated. It isn't. People just never explain it properly. This is a complete beginner's guide. We are covering the full setup: server, security, skills, memory, automations, Telegram, model routing, everything. By the end, you'll have a private AI assistant running 24 by 7 that actually does things for you. Let's start by a simple question. What is OpenClaw? It is an autonomous agent framework, meaning it runs continuously on a server you control, executes multi-step workflow without you watching, and connects to your real tool like Gmail, Google Calendar, web search, price trackers, RSS feed. Now, three things make it different from everything else. First, it's private. It runs on your own server. Your data never touches someone else's platform. Second, it's modular. You turn your exact skills whenever you need them: Gmail, web search, calendar, price tracking, anything, and leave the rest off. Third, it's safe. The agent can research and graph on its own, but it cannot send, delete, or execute anything until you approve it for. That's it. Now let's dive in onto how you can actually set it up. Now you have a few different options on how you can run OpenClaw. First one is completely free, which is on your local device, but it stops as soon as your device has been shut down. Second option is to get a separate computer just to run OpenClaw, which would stay on forever, but that would cost you a ton and would have some issues like internet stability, etc. And the third option, which we are going to use, is the option to host it on cloud. So basically, we'll be creating a computer on cloud that runs on forever. We don't have to worry about anything and would cost you a few bucks a month. And if something goes really bad, you can just create a new machine. Now we'll be using Google Cloud Console for this tutorial. So go to console.cloud.google.com and sign in with your Google account. If you are new to GCP, Google hands you $300 in free credit. Grab that, but all you have to do is add in a payment method. You won't be charged automatically, but it needs to be added. Once you are in, create a new project. On the top of your page, you'll see this project picker. If you click on that, you will select the new project option and just give it a name. I'm calling my OpenClaw bot. Next, you'll have to select a billing account. Choose the default My Billing account, and that's about it. Click on create. Once it's done creating, you can either use the notification option to access the project by simply clicking on this select button, or use the project picker right here and choose your created project. Here's where we actually create the virtual machine. You'll see this button right here. Click on it, and that would ask you to enable this API right here, which is Compute Engine API. Click on this enable button. Now back to your home page. In the search bar, type VM and select this VM instances. Now you have to create a new instance by clicking on this button right here. This is the VM configuration where you have to tweak around a few things. This will basically reflect how your virtual computer or virtual machine would look like. First things first, we are going to change the name so it's easier for us to remember, which is OpenClaw server. Next, in the region, choose one that is geographically closest to you. You have all these options, just choose one. Apart from that, we are not going to be changing anything in the machine configuration, but we need to make changes in operating system and storage. So click on that, and we have to make changes to operating system and storage. Click on this change button and change the operating system to Ubuntu instead of Debian. Up next, for the version, we are using Ubuntu 22.04 LTS. LTS means long-term support, meaning stable, maintained, and won't randomly break. Perfect for a server that has one job, which is be reliable. Next up, for disk space, you can start with 20 GB and click select. That was your OS configuration. Now in networking, you will see allow HTTP traffic as well as allow HTTPS traffic, which we don't need to check. And here's why. Checking those boxes open your server to entire internet. Anyone can try to poke at it. But we are building something different, a server that actually reaches out through Telegram, but never through web. So, no open web ports means nothing to attack. That was about all our configuration. Let's hit the create button and wait for our virtual machine to actually be created. See the status done green? That means your virtual machine is now running. Now, how do we really access this said virtual machine? It's pretty simple. All you have to do is click on this SSH button, which will open up this SSH in browser. You'll need to authorize it, which will take to the terminal of your virtual machine. You see this OpenClaw server? That's your VM. Now let's talk about installation. We are going to go in an order. Every command explained before you run it. First up, we are updating the operating system. This is the command, and as I run it, it would download and install the latest system packages. Give it a minute or two. Now, for the OpenClaw installation, this is the command, and you can find this link on the openclaw.ai website itself. Just make sure that you change from Windows to Linux because our terminal as well as virtual machine is running in Linux. Use the one-liner link for easiest installation and setup. So hitting enter to start the installation. So as soon as you see this screen right here, that means your OpenClaw has been installed. Now it's time to configure the bot for you, and this is the onboarding process. You'll get two modes for onboarding, either quick start or manual, where you'll have to change up all the details. I would recommend you to go with the quick start version because that's easier and you don't have to worry about things like which port do you want your pod to work on and gateway, etc. So first up, we have the authentication provider or model, which will be the brain of your bot. Clawbot will use these authentication providers to actually respond to you. You can use any of these or even configure your custom provider, but right now I'm going to be using the Google model, and for that I will need my Gemini API key. So I'm choosing that as my authentication method, and again you have two options. Either you can paste the key directly or configure it in an env file if you want more secure approach. But either ways, you'll require your API key, and here's how you can get it. Head over to Google AI Studio, and in the sidebar itself you'll see this get API key. Here you will already have a default API key, but if you want to create a new one specifically for this project and this use case only, then you can use this create API key option as well. Otherwise, just simply copy your API key from this button right here and then go ahead, paste it in the chat or configure using the env file. Next up, you have to select the model that you want to use, and this will vary according to the provider that you have selected. Right now, I'm getting all the different options that are available in Google Gemini API, and I will be selecting the 2.5 Pro option because that is good for text as well as reasoning. Here's where it gets real. You have to select a channel, or in other terms, an interface where you can interact with your bot. The quickest and most safest way is to use Telegram. So for now, I'll be choosing Telegram, and I'll show you how you can set it up once we do that as well. Now you have to enter in the Telegram bot token, which you will get by following these steps right here, and they are pretty simple. Let me show it to you. Open your Telegram. I'm using Telegram web, and search for a bot called Botfather. Start a chat with it, and now you can create a bot by a simple command like /create bot. Sorry, it's actually new bot, and then it will ask what you want to call it. You can either go through this chat interface or use this open button in your Telegram web, create a new bot from here and add in all the details all at once. I find this one more convenient, so I'm going to be naming my bot, which is meant to be a personal assistant, so that's what we'll call it. Now you can add some information in the description if you'd like, and finally you'll have to add a unique username for your bot. All you have to do is make sure that it ends with the word bot. So I'm going to be using something that looks like this: OpenClaw Assistant Kyra bot. Now you see this, that means it's available and perfect. Now all you have to do is create this bot and then copy this bot ID or the token that you need to access this Telegram. This is way easier than the chat option, but if you are trying to configure it from your mobile device or something like that, then you can even use that option and it will give you the token in the chat itself. Back in the terminal, I'm going to select the enter bot token over here and paste it in the chat itself. So our channel is configured, our model is also in place. Up next, we have the search provider. Now this is to make sure that your bot is not only smart but is also up to date and can search the web as you wish. You have a few provider options. I'm going to go with the Gemini because I already have that configured in my workflow right now. Again, I'm going to paste the same API key, and this is where it gets interesting. You can configure your skills for the bot right now, or you can even do it later on. But let's click on this yes button here and you'll see all these different skills. Now, if you scroll through this list right here, it will show exactly a small little description next to your skill regarding what exactly that skill is meant to do. To select any of these skills, press the space button and that will be selected. So I'm choosing the Hub, OpenAI Whisper and Summarize skill, and that's it. I'm going to hit enter, and I don't need Homebrew install command because this is a Linux system and Homebrew is for macOS. Next up, you'll have to select the manager to install your skills. So I'm going to go with the npm manager, and the skills are now installed. Well, they are not because just the Claw Hub one is installed. Rest failed because they need Homebrew installation. But we can configure that later on. Right now, it's asking for API keys for the skills that we are not using. So I'm going to hit no for all of these. And next option that you get is to enable hooks. These are essentially just event listener. Whenever an action takes place, these comes into play. So for now, we are going to skip this and we can talk about this later on when we will discuss the heartbeats. Now that's almost about it. Like, your configuration and onboarding is done, and once you get this option right here, that means all the settings have taken place. Now it's time to hatch our bot, and we'll be using terminal for now because later on we'll be using Telegram to communicate, but for now I'm going to just hatch it in the TUI, and here we go. So as you can see, I'm getting an error because instead of my API key, I added something else while I was trying to configure Google API. So let me just fix it real quick. Okay, so do you see this? It's now connected and working without any errors like this. And if you go ahead, type in something like, what can you do? It would give you some sort of response. There we have your response. Now, as much as we want to continue this chat right here, we need to switch out of this terminal onto our Telegram. So let's configure that as well. I'm going to turn off this right here, and now it has exited the onboarding process. But if you go back to your Telegram, in here, if I click on this bot button, it will start a new chat with the bot. Now I'm going to start the chat and it would give me something like this. This means that your access has not been configured and you have to use this pairing code right here to make that configuration. In other words, just copy the last line of this message and paste it in your terminal, because that's the command which will be configuring your access to the bot, meaning that this user, which is you right here, can talk to the bot. So after pasting it in your terminal, you'll get an approval that looks something like this. And if you go back and try to send another message from here, like hi, see the bot typing, and here you get a response. Now you can go ahead, answer this question right here, which is who am I and who are you, to start the basic introduction of your bot, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I did a little bit talking with my bot. I told it that it's a personal assistant, what it's called, and why am I using it. Up next, it's asking me to talk boundaries, rules, and automation. So let's put a hold to this, because this isn't just the bot talking to you. Rather than that, it is actually collecting all this information and storing it in a file. So you have to be as specific as you can get to get better result and more personalized responses. So it stores everything in this bootstrap file, and the more you talk to it, the more better it gets at personalization and configuration according to your contact. So here I'm going to add in a detail about what are the rules, boundaries, and things that I would prefer to be automated. Now, once you add in your core principles, rules, and boundaries, that will be added to a file called soulmd. And lastly, it's asking me how it can reach out to me. So I'm going to ask it to use this Telegram bot itself. Now, we have our bot's brain all set up as well as the interface to talk to it, but to make it operational and functioning like a personal assistant, we need to give it hands. In OpenClaw, we call them skills. Now, skills are the tool it can pick up to interact with the real world. You have two ways to add your skills. First up is you can go to this website called OpenClaw Hub. It is clawhub.ai, and in here you can choose the browse skills option and look for all the different skills that are available to you. Now, you will see different sets of skills, and this represents the number of downloads it has gotten as well as the number of stars it's got. But that doesn't ensure whether or not this skill is reliable or not. You can use this hide suspicious button to filter out any suspicious skills that might be a source of virus or something. But to actually check whether or not the skill is reliable, simply click on the skill. It will open up the skill page here, and in here you'll find the security scan section, and you can check the level of confidence from users as well as OpenClaw itself. And the second way to set any skill is using Telegram itself, asking your bot to do it for you instead of going through all this process. So naturally, we are going to be taking the second approach because that's more convenient for us, and that will also make sure that we are only installing secure skills. Now back in your chat, you'll need to run a command like this. It's called clawhub. Simply hit slash and type clawhub, and you'll find this command right here, which will give a response like such, which basically gives us a list of all the commands that can be used using this clawhub command. Now, as we need to install a skill, we'll use this install command, which is /clawhub. But instead of that, we are first off going to ask Clawbot to search for Google Workspace skill, because we are talking to our bot that doesn't essentially need us to write exact commands, because it can actually write commands for us. So it got us these. Now we are going to ask it to run a security check, inspect the details as well as code to find whether or not it is secure to install. So that's what I have asked, and it comes back with this response which talks about the security of the provided skill. It mentions that the claw scanner has flagged it as suspicious, but it took a deeper dive and looked at the public GitHub code, and that didn't seem any suspicious. Like, it looked legitimate, well documented, and it uses the actual recommended secure Google OAuth method for authentication. So, long story short, it is secure enough to use. Now, this would be the first skill that we are installing together, and it's pretty simple. I'm just going to ask Clawbot to install the skill, and later on we can configure it on together. And For those who don't know what this skill does, let me just give a little brief about it. The skill in question is GOC, which stands for Google Operation Connector or Google Operation Gateway, which is GOG. This bridges your ClawBot with and the Google Workspace. That means your bot will be allowed to read your email, check your calendar through a secure tunnel. So let's go on and install this. Okay, so the skill has been installed, and to start using it, we'll have to authorize it with our Google account. Now, I don't know what this client secret.json is, which we need to configure. So naturally, I'm just going to ask my bot what are the steps that I need to follow, and that's what I did over here to get this response right here, which is a step-by-step guide of exactly how to get the JSON file that needs to activate this skill. So it seems like we have already done step 1 and step 2 because we already have a project running. So back in our console, I have this project set and selected. Now we need to enable a few APIs, for which we are going to search for API, and here you'll see APIs and services. Now in here, you'll click on this enable APIs and services button, taking you to the API library. And these are all the APIs that you need to enable. Starting off with Gmail API, simply search for it like this and you'll find it. All you need to do is click on this enable button, and you need to do that for all the different APIs that you want to use, like Google Calendar, Google People API for your contacts, Google Sheets, Google Docs, and lastly Google Tasks to manage all your day-to-day tasks. Once you have enabled all the APIs that you want to use, now is time to click on this OAuth consent screen. Now here you'll have to configure an application identity to manage credentials. So click on get started, give your app a name, add a supporting email, and click on the next button. Now for the audience, use external, click on next button, and lastly add in an email for contact information in case some changes have been made to the project. Last step is to agree to the terms and condition and click on the continue, and finally create this. Now that's set up, click audience on the site tab, and here we are going to add a test user. Scroll down and you'll find this add user option, and then enter your email address and click save. So now you have a test user. Up next, we need to configure client. So click on the clients option, and here create client. For application type, select web application. You have to select a desktop application and then give it a name like OpenClaw, and that's it. Hit on this create button and it will give you details of your client ID, client secret, and a button which is this download JSON button. So hit that and that will download the JSON file for your client, and that's it. That was the JSON file we required. So the only thing left to do is to actually provide this JSON file back to our OpenClaw bot. I'm going to upload this over here, and in the caption I'm going to provide the details which are that I've followed all these steps, and now you can go ahead configure the skill. So there we go. And here I got the response which is asking me to authorize my account and providing the email address that I want to use. So I've sent the Gmail address, and now I have to copy this provided link in the chat and then complete the sign up process, finally authorizing my Gmail. So if I click on this button right here, it will copy the text to clipboard. But as you can see, this link is truncated, so I'm going to ask it to give me full link, and there I go. It has now given me a proper link. So once I open that in browser, I get this sign in option. Then it would give you this notification right here, which is that you're signing up for a testing app, but you have to click on this continue button, select all the permissions that you want to give to your assistant. I'm going to select all because these are all the permission of the APIs that we enabled in the project. So I'm going to continue, and now you'll see this authorization code which you have to copy from over here and paste it back in the chat, and that's it. The authorization has completed and the skill is now ready to use. So now is the time to test out whether or not it has actually finished the setup and if the skill is working or not. So I'm going to be asking it to add a task to my Google Task regarding the meeting I'm supposed to have on Thursday. So here's what I sent. Okay, so as soon as I entered this, it gave me this unknown error. So I asked it, I've already authorized, right? So then it gave me instruction that the authorization didn't really work or it refused to connect, and I had to follow these steps again to go to this URL, follow the steps which were just to sign in and give permission like we did before. But in the end, I'll have to send back the URL of the error page which I was getting. That looks something like this. All you have to do is copy this URL, add it into your chat, and then it's all set. Now if I asked it to add a task to my Google Task, alright, so check this out. This task has been added by ClawBot itself, which is to create the presentation for the meeting, and it is dated Thursday 19th March. So it works. Now I'm going to add a task in here, that is work lunch with boss on Wednesday. So if I go ahead and ask ClawBot what's on my task list for Wednesday, it would go ahead reply with something like this, where it has mentioned all the tasks that are dated for Wednesday. So pretty convenient, right? It can actually access your Google workspace. Now that was just us testing it out, but to use it like a real tool and real workflow, you'll have to go a step further. Let's say we are going to assign a role to our personal bot, that it is my operational manager. So anytime I receive some sort of email inquiring about anything particular, it should reply to it, or at least draft an email for the reply, which I can review and approve, then send over. So here I've given a detailed guide of exactly what I want. It has to act like my operational manager. Anytime I receive an email, it should search for the background of the sender, draft a reply, use the calendar to see when I'm free, and add about 2 to 3 open slots in the mail. Then after, it has to report me back to Telegram, providing the context of the mail, the action that was taken, proposed text, and decision. And lastly, I have given some technical guidelines and voice and tone. In the technical guidelines, I've asked it to maintain a log of all the incoming inquiries for day-to-day summary. So I've sent this over. Alright, so it has read the instruction, and let's test it out by sending an email to my authorized mail. Here's the message that I've sent. So I've sent this message to check the email for updates, and it told me that it received the email that I just sent, and I'm going to ask it to read only the mails that are regarding the inquiry instead of reading all my mails. Okay, so here's the text that I've received. It has the subject, which is the partnership inquiry, with the context of who is the sender and what exactly is their background. Then the action taken is a draft that is created in Gmail, and this is the content of the draft. So if I go into my Gmail, I can see this draft right here. It has the same text that was provided in my Telegram. So if I go ahead and approve over here, alright, so now the thing is, it's not really possible to come every time you have a new email or an inquiry and ask it to check for it and then get this detail. So what we are going to be using is the heartbeat function of ClawBot. Now this is similar to the cron job, which I'll explain later on. First, let's talk about heartbeats. Basically, these are scheduled tasks and they run every specific interval. Let's say if I ask my personal assistant to check for my emails every 30 minutes or an hour, it would do that and update me if there are any new inquiries or anything urgent that needs my attention. So to enable this, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is ask it to enable the heartbeat.md, and the task that it needs to do in every specified interval. So here we go. It has added that to my heartbeat. It would check every hour for my unread emails to look for any inquiries. If any of inquiries are found, it will immediately briefly alert me regarding that. So that's your heartbeat. But what's a cron job? It is basically a task that is scheduled for, let's say, so a cron job is a scheduled task that repeats every day or whenever you have specified. Let's say I want a daily brief in the morning at 8 a.m. regarding any upcoming tech models or gadgets, and I want my schedule for the day as well from my Google Calendar. So all I have to do is add or ask Clawbot something like this, and here I've just asked it whatever I literally said. Mind you, all you need to make sure is that you're asking it to schedule the task, the time, and that's about it. All you have to do is describe your task and it will create a cron job for that. Okay, so it has created these two scheduled tasks for me, a daily news briefer as well as a daily calendar schedule notifier. And I asked it to give the brief for today because it's already not 8 a.m. So just to get a context of how it would look like. So here's the news debrief, which is recent development in NVIDIA generative model. Meta is coming up with AI chips slated for 2027 and stuff like that. So in short, don't just confuse cron job and heartbeats. They have defined functionality for each of them. You use cron jobs when you want to schedule any sort of task that is repetitive but on a daily basis rather than hourly or more frequently, like news updates, daily summaries, schedule updates, etc. But heartbeats differ because they need to be ran like every frequent interval. So let's say if you want to be notified about any important stuff like urgent message, alerts, etc. Alright, now let's talk about something which most tutorials usually skip. We have seen all the basics and we have also seen how the bot remembers things as well as responds as us. But where does it store all of this? So basically, Clawbot has multiple files which are markdown files that store text rather than data in databases or anything like that. It simply stores text. You can read them, access it, as well as edit it. And there's not just a single file, there are a bunch of files. Let me show them to you. I cannot really access the web UI of OpenClaw, but if I go back in my terminal, these are all the different files where different data are stored. Now, out of all these, we have already talked about heartbeat.md. So let's start off by understanding what this soul.md is. Think of this as bot's character sheet. When I tell the bot to be professional or minimalistic, it writes those traits in here. This file defines who the bot is and how it speaks. If your bot is being too wordy or too casual, this is the file you'll have to check and edit. Next, we have agents.md. This is the instruction manual. This is where the actual logic lives. It tells the AI when and what to do. So when an email hits the inbox, use the search skill first and then use the calendar skill and then notify me. This file defines what the bot does and in what order. Lastly, we have user.md. That's essentially biography of you. It stores information that doesn't change often, like your name, job title, time zone, general preferences, etc. A short description of what this identity.md is basically how the bot represents you to the outside world. So instead of saying I'm an AI, it would say I'm writing on behalf of me, giving a seamless workflow. Now those were a few important files that you need to know about, and now let's check out how you can read them and edit them. That is pretty simple because you can literally ask your bot to give the access to those files. So let me ask it to show the content of soul.md. And that's exactly what it did. It gave me all the information stored in soul.md. Remember this? This was what I added a few texts back to make it my operational manager. Also, the three files that update every session and are loaded every session are the agent.md, soul.md, and user.md. That's why those are the three most important files. So I've sent in a text like reply only in casual tone, and it told me that the current operating directive requires it to maintain the professional minimalistic tone. Now, do you see this? It has gotten more casual than before. So that's basically how you can access your files as well as customize them right from your chat. Okay, up next, did you know you can actually send audio text to your bot and it would reply using the normal text message? And to do so, all you have to do is just ask your bot to enable the audio transcription so I can send voice messages. And now it has given me steps to use Deep Crown to do so. And if you want, you can even use OpenAI Whisper or 11 Labs. I don't know, but I don't have either of those right now. So I have asked it to give me more detailed steps, and then I can follow along and show you as well. So you can go ahead, use this similar method to do it with your bot itself. So start off by going to deepcram.com, sign up if you don't already have an account, and if you do, just log in. And once you're in the platform, you can simply go ahead, click on this free API key button, name the key, and set the expiration date. I'm just going to call it OpenClaw, and that's it. Create the key, copy the secret, and now back in the Clawbot, it did ask me to update the openclaw.json and add this tool right here, then set up the DeepCram API key, and then restart the service. So I asked it, can't Clawbot do the configuration for me? So it didn't have the access, for which you'll have to run this command right here, which is elevated. You can find it in this link here if you can't remember it, and then give the full access. And then I asked it, can it edit the configuration file now? And it said yes, it could. So it has added the tool, and now I have given my API key so that it can configure the API key and then restart the bot. So it has now configured. So I'm just going to hit this restart command right here, which will restart the bot, and I think now it must be restarted. So I'm going to hit a text which is hello. Alright, so I got the response. Now let's test out whether or not it can transcribe our audio. So I'm going to record an audio. Hey Leo, can you hear me? And can you also transcribe the text? So this is the response that I got. It can transcribe the text and working perfectly. Now, if you want to take this a step further, you can give a voice to your personal bot as well by using this tool called HTTS, which will transform your text, which is your bot's text, into voice. And the best part is it's open source. So I've asked OpenClaw to configure HTTS and respond with voice text only when I send one. So let's see how it configures it or not. So it is configured. I send this text, this voice message right here, which was, hey Leo, can you talk to me? And this is the response I got. So let's hear it out.
Hey, I can definitely talk to you now. I've configured HTTS and set the mode to.
So basically, this is the voice message and this is the transcript of the same. Therefore, it's actually working. Pretty cool, isn't it? And all of this for free is just cherry on top. Now, another cool feature that OpenAI has is that it can use sub-agents, meaning if you have a task, you can divide that amongst different multiple sub-agents to make it quicker and run simultaneously basically. So how do we access it? You can either use this command right here, which is a /sub-agent, or that is to see all the details of sub-agents. But what you need to do is mention it in your prompt itself or the text message. Like, check this out. So here's the text message that I'm going to be sending, which is that I have a meeting tomorrow with this company right here. I need full briefing. I need 3 sub-agents to run simultaneously. One to research the official website, second one to research the news for any updates in last 30 days, and the third one is to find the top 2 competitors and tell me how we are compared to them. So I'm going to send this. And now if I run the sub-agent command and choose the list option, I can see all these 3 sub-agents listed with all the different tasks they have been assigned, which they are doing. And there we have our report. It gave us the reports for 3 different companies because it couldn't figure out which of these are we talking about. But that was just sub-agent B, but sub-agent A as well as C have still not given their reports yet. So let's wait for that. Now this is the briefing from sub-agent A regarding the core products of Solaris Tech. So instead of going through the whole website of the competitor or the client that you are attending meeting with, you can simply ask your personal assistant to do it for you. I mean, that's literally its functionality, right? And lastly, it has compiled all 3 of them into an executive briefing where it talks about the core product and services, the recent news, as well as the competitive landscape. So that's how basically you use all the ability of your Clawbot. Now, apart from this, you even have the option to set multiple providers. Like right now, I'm just using a single provider, which is Google, and a single model, which is Gemini 3 Flash. But you can use multiple providers with multiple models for different purposes. And the setup is pretty simple. All you have to do is ask your bot that you want to add this specific model as well as provider, and it will give you the steps. You can follow it and do as told. So I'm not going to go into that. Lastly, if you run into some sort of error and can't figure out how to solve it, or your OpenClaw is being buggy, you can simply go back to your Google Cloud virtual machine, and in here all you have to do is select your VM and hit this reset button. That will help you out and it will get rid of those errors, and you can reinstall your OpenClaw as well. So just like that, you went from not knowing anything about OpenClaw to having a fully functional AI assistant made just following these simple steps, and it didn't even take an hour to do so. So if you found this helpful, do comment below and do tell me what you are using Clawbot for.